Welcome in, everyone, to the Barking Browns podcast. I hope you all are having a fantastic Friday evening. I am your host, Casey Kenneman, and this is Know Your Enemy, the podcast where we do a deep dive and break down the Browns' upcoming opponent. As always, we're brought to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. You guys know the drill. Head over to SeatGeek, punch in that promo code Barking Browns, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Now, the price of the brick may go up if Shedeur holds on to this starting job when we go back to play San Francisco next week. But it ain't got to be a Browns game. You could go check out the Cavs, see some stand-up comedy, go to a monster truck rally, whatever you're into. Go to SeatGeek, punch in that promo code Barking Browns, and save yourself $20. Well, guys, we have a clash of the Titans on our hands this week. The 2-8 Cleveland Browns head to the desert to take on the 2-8 Las Vegas Raiders. Now, FanDuel has the Raiders as 3.5-point favorites with an over-under of 36.5, which means they are expecting a good old-fashioned rock fight. But that's just a 30,000-foot overview, me looking down. But we need to get into the nitty-gritty. So in order to do that, you know what we do. We bring on a guest. And tonight's guest is a contributor over at Silver and Black. He is an alumni of the Scouting Academy. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the stage Mr. Marcus Johnson.
Hey, everybody. How you guys doing?
Hey, welcome to the party, man. How we doing tonight?
Doing great, man. I'm doing great. Just tired of watching the Raiders a little bit. It's in depth, but hey, this is what we do. So yeah. Misery loves company, and we're in the same boat, paddling the same direction. Unfortunately, exactly.
Let's go ahead and just get into it, man. What's the Vegas vibe right now? How's the fan base holding up at 2-8 right now?
The fan base is not really high on them. For Silver and Black Pride, I do a confidence rating. It's at 8% right now. So the confidence that the team has, the fans have in the Raiders in the team's direction is not very high. Pete Carroll is just, it doesn't seem it's working out, and it's a tough decision for them because he's 74 years old. And they got to try to figure out what they're going to do. Do they keep him? I mean, they're like in a rebuilding mode. You could just tell by a little bit how Spytek was moving in free agency. Like nobody in the defense has like more than a 1-year deal besides Jeremy Chin. There's gonna be a lot of free agents, so they have to be making a lot of moves next year on defense. And they have to. They have a ton of money. Offense. They have some younger players. But they got to decide: do they actually like Dylan Parham, or do they feel like they can get somebody else? Or does that become a draft thing? So it's gonna be interesting how they rebuild this team, and if Pete Carroll joins them. I know definitely Chip Kelly won't be. If Pete Carroll does, I'll say that Chip Kelly won't be joining them for sure. But we'll see if Pete Carroll continues on this line of this rebuild, because I don't know. Is he going to make it to 76? You got 75 next year. Is he going to get to 76 and then wait for the winner to be in 77? I don't know. We'll see.
Well, Sneaky Pete, we should probably start there. And the fact that because he's such a high energy guy, his age has kind of been hidden, at least during his tenure in Seattle. You never really looked at him as being that, but now that he took a year off the game, he comes back. So your feelings when he was hired versus where you're at with Pete now, how's that look?
I was excited when he was hired just because I thought he is a team builder and he's a culture builder. So that was something that stood out to me always with Pete Carroll. I mean, he's never had a season like this in the NFL, like ever. When he was with the Jets, they went 6-10, and I think he got, I don't know if he got fired at 1 year after that, and they hired the other dude who went like 1-15, and then he went to the Patriots, they made the playoffs, right, and then he got fired for Bill Belichick, and then he went to USC, almost won 2 national championships. I mean, technically, I think they won 2 national championships, and then almost 3. And then he comes to Seattle. He went to Super Bowl, and they're a consistent winner. And even when he switched to Geno Smith, then they had a couple 9-8 seasons, but they weren't like losers. They weren't bad teams, right? And that's kind of what I expected. I expected them to be a mediocre football team based on this, but it's just I don't think I think he thought that Geno Smith was going to save everything. I think he thought Geno was so good that he would come in and kind of right the ship, be a leader, and get these young guys on offense. There's a lot of good young players on offense. He probably thought they can grow with like Brock Bowers, and then bringing in Chip Kelly, maybe get creative with drafting Ashton Genty, and they'll figure it out on defense, right? Which they have in some games, but that's kind of the word on Pete. I think he was just wrong about this team, in my opinion, and I think that's the biggest problem is his vision for the team is just not where the team is at.
Yeah, you think if you bring a culture builder like like Pete, like you're almost like just bringing a floor with you at least.
Mhm.
At least you build up for mediocrity, and at least that's like your bottom should be. But obviously, the season's told a different story.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Spytek, because I'm not gonna lie. When they first announced him as the GM, I thought he was a made up person. I had never heard of him, and when I heard that Brady was involved, I was like, "Oh, this must be some sort of alias," with all the spy stuff that the Patriots were accused of over the year that he brought him in. But what's your early evaluation on John Spytek?
I like the draft picks that he made at the time, and I still have some faith in most of them. I do. I think, I'm not going to get off the draft class. We're just not seeing them produce, and I think a lot of Raider Nation is having a big problem with that. They want to see the rookies play right now. I mean, the patience of Raiders fans is very low, and which it's been a long time. I get it, but they have very low patience, and Jack Bech is already getting slandered, and I'm like, he's gonna look good on film though. So, on the film, he looks really good. He's running great routes. I mean, he can't throw the ball himself. And he can't force the snaps on his field. They try to force the Dante Thornton thing, which he wasn't ready. I mean, you can see on film when he was going to come into college, there was a very steep learning curve for Dante Thornton, but they threw him out there super early over Jack Bech, right? And, so Bech kind of gets a little hate, but I still think he's going to be a good player. Ashton Jeanty looks pretty good. The line has been awful. So, I mean, but, there's been some games and some great runs and, here and there, and you can just see the talent there still. And, but, free agency, we'll see. I think that's the kind of the question with Spytek, which, there's two parts to being a GM. Mm-hmm. I think you got to see what he does in free agency this year, because I think free agency, they went really light. Like the 1-year deals, $4 million, Landon Roberts, they're kind of just Eric Stokes. They're kind of just going back to these really, really cheap guys instead of trying to spend big, and they have all this money. So I don't know if they thought they're going to sign some of these younger guys or something. I don't know, but we'll see. But the Malcolm Kunzes, guys like that, they haven't played well. So we got to see what he does in free agency, see if he just goes all out to fix his team this year and see what he does.
Yeah, I like your draft class, man. I like Tonka. I'm a huge Jack Bech guy. I Thornton could be a field stretcher, like you said. He's not ready yet, but like you can see the vision. So I like some of the pieces that they put together. But we talked a little bit pre-show, and Pete seems to have a reluctancy to play young players. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to show their worth early in their career.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know if he was always like that, because you think about like 2010, they had a lot of young guys out there. And they built that draft class off of young players, right? I mean, they built the Legion Boom off the draft picks, right? Bobby Wagner played really early. It wasn't that he's always like that. I just think he's 74. I mean, back then, he was like, he's like 59 or something like that. It was 59 at that point. So he knew he had time. And now he doesn't. And I think that's what the push is. I mean, that's why they're signing a Tyler Lockett. Like, we don't need Tyler Lockett on this team. We have Jack Bech. Just see what he can do. But no, we're like, we need Tyler Lockett to make it happen.
I've never seen a player avoid contact like Tyler Lockett. If he catches it, he's taking a knee. That dude is no yak. There is no yak from Tyler Lockett. Let's talk about Geno, man, because like I thought there was something there. I thought he was going to help provide that floor that we were talking about earlier, bringing a veteran like that in who kind of could kind of take a system and run with it. But has it just not been a marriage with him and Chip Kelly, or is it just declining skills?
I think it's declining skills. That's what I think it is. I think it's declining skills. Because I'm sure we'll talk about Chip Kelly a little bit in a second, but I think Geno is not seeing the field really well, and like all his warts are really just popping up. That have always been there. So like, he's always been a little late. He's never really been an anticipation thrower. But the previous years in Seattle, he's just so accurate. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in football to all levels. The past 3 seasons, from like 2022 through 2024, he is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in football. This year, he is very inaccurate. Bad feet, just all over the place. And, a little bit has to tie with Chip Kelly, which you talk about. But I think the passing game that Chip Kelly has in the NFL is fine. I think he gets the guys open for Geno Smith. But like sometimes, Geno, what he always has done a little bit is, he's really a pre-snap, predetermined read guy.
Mhm.
which you really can't do and be great in the NFL. So that's probably why you see, the Seattle team struggle a lot and not, maybe how they're looking right now with Sam Darnold and how they're looking with him. And they're kind of always teeting around 500. I mean, they finished 10-7 last year, but the previous 2 years he was 9-8, or like 8-6 as a starter, because if a team switches it up on him, it's ugly for him. And, with Chip Kelly not really helping him in the passing game either, it's just huge. And then he takes a lot of sacks. And that is something that he does all the time. I've it's something people blame his offensive line a lot in Seattle, but I think it's him holding the ball and thinking he's Superman as when he's on the drop back game and trying to break like 80 tackles. So it's just been ugly with Geno Smith and decision making. And the biggest thing that pisses me off is that of course you come to the Raiders and you're not accurate anymore.
Yeah. Magically you show up and that stayed behind. Well, to Chris's question here, do you think there's a rift between Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll right now?
Yes, a big rift. I think, I'm actually surprised Chip's still there. I was surprised he made it past last week. Maybe because it's a short week. Yeah, they don't want to, go through that. And maybe after this week, if, especially against this game, I think this game is going to be really ugly. So, I just don't see with how Geno holds the ball and with how this offensive line really can't block more than 2.7 seconds. See, Geno has 2.7 seconds. And if he doesn't throw the ball before that, he's in trouble. And what you're seeing is him trying to take 3 seconds and stuff like that. So he's just taking a lot of quarterback pressures and things like that. So it's just a big issue. So I don't know if Chip makes it, to be honest.
Well, when I was reviewing the roster here, and the Browns, trust me, do not have an enviable offensive tackle scenario. But when I look and I got Stone Forsythe and DJ Glaze, offensive tackle.
Yeah.
And obviously the Browns have their struggles in the same areas. Both these defensive lines could look like the 85 Bears this coming week. And I get why Vegas is saying 36.5 for an over-under, because this could be a rock fight. Could be a struggle with that offensive line. Colton Miller not being available, look like they've been reshuffling the deck. They, some people lost some people to injury. Do you think there's a path forward with this current offensive line, or is this just dead in the water for the remainder of the season?
I think it's pretty dead in the water. Once they lost JPJ, who had his problems with Pete Carroll too as well. Pete Carroll was having him in competition with Alex Kappa, which is just crazy. Now that you think about it, it's just nuts. But I think what they're even doing with the offensive line right now is crazy, because they have 2 guys they drafted. They drafted Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant, and they're not playing. They're playing Stone Forsythe and Will Putnam, who might be the worst offensive lineman I've seen in my life. I've never seen a guy play as bad. I like, it's at the point where I feel bad watching it. Like, man, you just shouldn't be out there. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why they're doing this to you, but you just shouldn't be playing in the NFL. Like, it's just not going to work. It's not working. And, I chart them every week, and he had 14 missed blocks last week. And I don't think you understand what that's like to watch.
Our fans are screaming at their monitors right now saying KT Leviston. KT Leviston. So Will Putnam and KT Leviston. That's what's happening this Sunday, people. Buckle up.
Yeah, I think they're going to move Miles inside just because of that. They're going to have Miles rush right at him. Yeah, man. It's just, it's just bad. It's bad on the offensive line. And then mixing with Chip Kelly, having kind of a simple running game, it just doesn't work. But with the 5 they're going to put out there on Sunday is going to be super ugly. And to me, it kind of goes into Pete too, trying to win, because just play Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant. And maybe we could see, okay, there might be potential there, because DJ Glaze is a great example. I mean, they just threw him out to the fire as a rookie in, I think 2023, 2024. Last year, they just threw him out there. And week 2, they didn't try to hide him, and he played okay. And this year, he's up and down. He can get his butt kicked one game, and then one game he looks pretty good. So I think he's just an average right tackle in the NFL. But throw him out there, see what happens. But it's crazy.
Yeah, I was another rookie. I was huge on Charles Grant coming out of William and Mary.
Mhm.
I was disappointed when he wasn't at the Senior Bowl because that was someone I wanted to see against upper competition. But if you're just looking at an athletic prototype to someone you could build from an offensive tackle, now granted, you take a guy like that, it might take a little bit of development. But if when you're looking out there and the guy's just basically a traffic cone getting beat like that, it's like at this point, and you're 2-8, why not see what you have in the young man? But
yeah, exactly.
yeah, they definitely think otherwise. So let's talk about the skill position players. I'm a huge Trey Tucker guy. He's a Cleveland native, little speed demon. Where you at on Trey?
I like Trey. I'm a huge Trey Tucker fan. I was hoping Geno Smith. I started on Raiders Twitter hashtag free Trey Tucker because nobody could throw deep to him, and then they're not throwing deep now, and it's bothering me. He's improved so much. Like he just every year, man. He's a good route runner now. I thought he had some stiffness. He had to get over it. But he's gotten better with his, he's working out like crazy. I could tell he's a work hard guy because to come in the NFL with kind of stiff hips and now have more flexible hips and you're able to get in and out of your breaks, out of your speed, that's work. That's him putting the work and understanding what he has to get better at. He comes back to the football. I know he kind of got killed on the Dallas game for it, but he slipped when you watch on film. That's why he didn't come back to the football. But he's always does that. comes back to the football, tracks the ball great in the air. He's becoming a better slot player too. He's picking up whereas he's out in the zones and he's catching making himself available to the quarterback and catching the ball in the slot. So he's become a whole lot diverse, and that's why you're seeing his numbers grow, his touchdowns go up. He's a player I really like. I think he's underrated player for the Raiders. And when people say they don't have good wide receivers, I'm like, well, if we just get a coordinator that can use him right, and then just make him, move him around a little bit, get him some free looks, get him some free, ways to get him deep. And I think actually Chip Kelly does a good job with that. But, with Geno, is not seeing it. Like there's this game against, I believe it was against the Jags, and the Jags were playing cover 3, but they were so worried about Brock Bowers that the guy kind of shaded on the, say, strong side of the hashes, right? And it was just, cover 3, the linebacker has to take the slot guy. So he sends Trey Tucker on a wide cross, and it's a one-on-one with some slow linebacker, and Geno doesn't throw it to him. So that's my problem with that. But yeah, I'm a big Trey Tucker fan. Huge. I always liked him. So that's my guy.
That's heartbreaking when you get a matchup like that, and then the quarterback just ignores it, and it's like, oh, man, that's free money you just passed up, my man. Free money.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on. We're kind of mirror images of each other. Our wide receivers are going through struggles, but it's hard to evaluate those positions when your line is as bad as it is and the quarterback's playing the way that they are. Mm-hmm. But you do have tight ends and a running back. So let's focus on – let's start with Brock Bowers because, I mean, if I were to pick one player from either team as far as the pass catchers go, he's the guy for me, man.
Brock is QB proof. It doesn't matter who's throwing it to him. Brock's going to eat. Doesn't matter if it's Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Geno Smith at this point. He is eating, and he's going to eat a lot. And he's, he reminds me of Travis Kelce so much. Like that's the first thing I think about is the route running that he has, the skill he has at it. He just looks like a wide receiver. Sometimes you talk about maybe his release. Like when he plays against better corners, right? And they put a corner on him, maybe have a little bit of a struggle there, kind of get open with his release a little bit. But, to me, it's not something he should be doing all the time anyways. He's playing outside, because that's kind of a little bit of his weakness, in my opinion. He's like, you can't fully move him outside, but inside, you're done. I mean, it's just him eating all day. Right. Yeah. Great hands, just strong catch. He saved like a couple of Geno Smith interceptions already on some, quick choice routes. He could choice route him to death. Like, that's why I want a West Coast guy to come in here because I think he can become that Travis Kelce in the West Coast offense. And that's really what his future is. And then, Michael Mayer is a starting tight end in like probably half the league. Yeah. He's a stud too. I think he's a stud. He runs good routes as well. They're a great tandem, and that's why they play 12 personnel. I think because Brock Bowers is hurt, that's probably why they only play it 31% of the time. Because the past couple weeks they've been like 60, and past 3 weeks they've been up around 60%. From what I've been charting. So yeah, that's all they do. That's their best 4 is going to be. You're going to see Tucker, Bowers, and Mayer out there the most, and then they're going to rotate Thornton and Besh at this point, or of course Tyler Lockett. But yeah.
All right, well, let's go to the man in the backfield. And Hype city coming into the season. Like fantasy football, this dude was first round for everyone. And then people kind of get disappointed. But when you go to a team when it has struggles up front, the way the Raiders have, it's going to be hard to have success for a running back. But what have you seen out of Genty, and what do you think he can be going forward?
I think Genty could be a good to great back in the NFL. I think what we're seeing with this season is Chip Kelly kind of having some of the issues that he had when he left the NFL, where his run game is built for college football. And it just the designs, the way they line up, it's built around them having a lot of space, and the space is condensed in the NFL, and I think that's part of the issue that they're having. But Genty, he has all the elements that you saw from him in Boise State. Of course, the long speed was always a question. That's probably why he didn't run the 40. I mean, you kind of can see that on film. But the power, the way that he can make guys miss in open field, just making taking a 3-yard run and keep pushing and turning it into 6. You see a lot of that from him on film, and he has great vision still. I think at this point in the season, though, I think he's a little too cute trying to do what he did at Boise State, which is like manipulate linebackers and stuff like that. And he doesn't have the line for that right now. So if they get a better offensive line, they allow him to get to work like that, I think that's going to be a good thing. And I never felt he was a zone back either in college. I thought he was way better in gap schemes and counters and things like that, where he could do those type of things. And they've been trying to, push him as his own back. And I always feel like there's some backs that just fit better in certain systems. And hopefully, if they bring in a new offensive coordinator, that I'm pretty sure they are, whether Peters can stay or not, they get into that power system with him and make him more comfortable that way.
All right, let's switch sides over to Patrick Graham's group on the defensive side of the ball. Everyone knows that it's Maxx Crosby. That's the headliner. And if I were to be drawing a fight poster for this game, it's Godzilla versus King Kong. It's Miles and Max. That's what this matchup really is. But why don't you highlight some other players on the defensive side of the ball, not named Maxx Crosby, and kind of educate our listeners?
It's hard to highlight some of the guys on defense side of the ball, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try here. So Eric Stokes is having a good year. Eric Stokes is playing well. They don't ask the Raiders to play man a lot. The Raiders are purely zone, either playing quarters, cover 2 or cover 3, or and mostly they're gonna play mostly cover 3 in quarters. They might switch to some cover 2. They probably will this week, because when Patrick Graham's playing a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, that he likes to run cover 2, kind of make him throw into tight windows and kind of have to anticipate things, right? And Patrick Graham does a good job of that against kind of younger quarterbacks. I mean, the Raiders have been losing the young quarterbacks since he's been there a little bit, but a lot of that was Bo Nix and stuff like that, and Sean Payton, what he could do. But he's going to try to make them anticipate what kind of the coverage is. But I would say Eric Stokes is a good player. I think there's some guys defensive line that showed flashes. So like Jonah Laulu, he's shown some flashes. He's had some good games, but then he's also had some games where he's getting washed out everywhere. Same with Adam Butler. Adam Butler finally got paid. He had 2 good years in a row, for a defense tackle, for how much he played, how many snaps, to have five sacks back to back, and he was getting plenty of pressures. He's winning a lot. We're not seeing that this year. So that's been a little upsetting too, is not seeing that from him. And then, from some of the other guys in defense tackles, I mean, they're not playing the young guys. So talking Hemingway, he played a little bit last week, but Geese isn't playing. And then Tyree Wilson, Tyree Wilson's a solid NFL player, but he's just not a top 7 guy. So it's just
he'll always be kind of anchored to that draft position, and people will be judged him on that, as opposed to he's a solid rotational player.
Yeah, and he rushes pretty good from the inside. So they have some good games where they're getting pressure on the defensive line, but I would say the linebackers are probably the biggest hole in this team, and that's probably where Stefanski, if he's and I know he's a smart offensive coordinator, he's going to attack the linebackers. So I think this is a big game for Njoku, and Devin White. He has a lot of tackles, and the Raiders play the run pretty well. They're pretty good against the run. It's just if you attack Atlanta Roberts and you attack Devin White in the passing game, those guys are going to be eating. So, but Kyle Blue Kelly's not very. He's been playing awful. They won't play Darian Porter, but they said he had great pre-good practice, so he might play. Isaiah Palomar, he'll make a play, then make a terrible play, make a play, terrible play, make a play. He's just inconsistent. And then the other safety is Lonnie Johnson, who's just a special teams guy, and that's what I mean. They don't have anybody dynamic on defense. It's really just Maxx Crosby, and that's it basically. I mean, that's why he gets like I'm pretty sure the Browns are a little bit smarter than Chip Kelly and do some chip blocking. They'll probably just get triple team him
I would like to think so because we have a front row seat to how teams try to approach Miles every week, and we never do that. When we're playing a stud, he'll see one-on-ones, and it's flabbergasting to me. But I got good news for you. If your defensive line's struggling, we are the cure that for all your ails, man. You'll be surprised how good they'll look this week, man.
Okay, all right. I'm ready for that, man, for sure.
So what are some matchups that you're keying in on this week?
I think some matchups I'm looking at is, of course, the easy one is Myles Garrett versus offensive line. I think that's the biggest part of this game. Chip Kelly has not been giving these guys help. He's been leaving Stone Forsythe on an island. It's exactly Spark. Max Crosby and friends is exactly right. But he's been leaving those guys on an island. So it's like, what do they do with Myles? Like, this is the game where they can get creative and just move Myles all around, and he could just attack from inside, outside. Because it's going to be, if Putnam's out there, which I know he's going to be, he's going to be out there for sure. It's going to be really ugly with that. And then the other matchup I want to see too is Patrick Graham just first Shedeur Sanders. I'm interested to see how he plays him. Like, does he blitz him? Does Pete allow him to blitz? Because Patrick Graham used to blitz a lot past couple of years. Since Pete's here, they don't blitz at all anymore. And they just play the soft zone and rush 4. Are they going to switch that up for this game? Because, you saw what the Ravens did on film. And I think Patrick Graham has that in his bag, but he hasn't really used it this year. And then you can say maybe the corners can't hold up. But I think since the Browns are so beat up at receiver, they're going to feel more confident in that. So I'm interested to see how that works. And I want to see what the Raiders do outside too. And I want to see if the Browns put Ward or try to move him around and guard Brock Bowers as well. I'm interested to see that, because I know they, the man defense and stuff like that. So
Schwartz typically doesn't move with corners.
Yeah,
I would expect Grant Delpit to spend a fair amount of time trying to D up on Bowers. It's a shame because with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah being out for the season, possibly career, that's something we don't know. Yeah. The Browns would have one of the rare teams that would have speed to at least keep up with Bowers between him and Schlesinger, but they like to move Delpit down in the box and kind of let him take responsibility like that. But Bowers, that's such a tough matchup, man. Linebackers are cooked, safeties are too small. It's he is a walking mismatch. What are some of the keys that you're looking for a Vegas victory here?
I think the keys is they got to run the ball. They got to find a way to run the football. They're going to have to. They're going to have to get into that. They can't do the throw 40 times to this. They got to run the football. They have to. It's to kind of slow everything down, right? And the Browns have some good linebackers over there, so it's going to be tough for that to happen. And this offensive line is just bad. But they're going to have to find a way to stick with it and see what they could do with it and kind of switch it up and maybe get some creative and have to run some things out of shotgun now because they've been under center for so long. Maybe they get in shotgun a little bit and try to spread teams out and see how what they could do with Brock Bowers because the Cowboys didn't with the 12 personnel, the Cowboys were in dime all games, so it's gonna be interesting to see what the Browns do with that. So do they spread them out this game and run from shotgun a little bit more? That's gonna be the key for that. And then on defense, I think the key to me is make Shedeur Sanders beat you. Yeah. Let's find out if he can do it. Right. But, so they got to stop the run, which the Raiders could do, get them in the 3rd and long and see what he does. And then when he makes a mistake, you got to catch it. Because, last week on 3rd and long, I think he came in there like not watching tape. He looked like a guy who didn't watch tape all year. When he came in there last week, he looked totally lost. So I think he's going to be more prepared this week. But I think when you play him and just how he looked last week, you want to see that though, because it was 3rd and long last week. It was almost a done deal for him. So that's what the Raiders. That's some of the key things I see for that for sure.
Yeah, 3rd and 6 has been a death sentence for this team in general. So I can feel that. Yeah. All right, time for the uncomfortable part of this conversation. What is your score prediction for Sunday?
I think it's gonna be like 16-3 Browns. That's what I think it is. I think the Browns win this game 16-3.
Well, you're on the under then. The Vegas
yeah.
36.5. You're taking a 29. So, yeah.
I'll
And
feel
in the comments earlier, someone asked if there was an over/under on punts, and they had 20. I think that's fair. I think 20 is a pretty fair number, man.
Yeah. I think Geno Smith's gonna turn the ball over. He's been consistent doing that. I think the pressure is gonna happen to him. He's either gonna fumble or turn the ball over and give the Browns some short fields. And I don't know if they score touchdowns off it. So that's why I'm going 16-3.
All right, you guys heard it. Get your bets in. You know what I mean? Try to get ahead of it. All right, now the uncomfortable part. Let's go to the fun part, man.
Okay.
I always ask every guest before we get off here, what is your team's Mount Rushmore? What does your Raiders Mount Rushmore look like?
Okay, I would start with Jim Otto.
Ooh, a lot of you people might not know who that is. That man racked up so many All-Pros at center, man. That right there, probably the greatest center ever to play the game.
Yeah, Jim Otto, Ted Hendricks. Oh, this is tough.
The Stork. All right.
Yeah.
My guy, dude. My guy. Here we go.
More. Okay, I'm going to go Gene Upshaw.
Just mean. Yeah, I like it.
Last one, though. Ugh. Man. I want Charles Woodson. I'm going to go Charles Woodson just because I was a fan of his. Yeah, but that was tough. When I think about that, I'm leaving out so many.
Yeah, no, you guys have had just a storied franchise, and there's people that I'm sure would put Marcus on there. Hell, Ray Guy, dude, the only punter in the Hall of Fame. Let's put some respect on the man's name. I wouldn't be mad if you would have put Madden or Al Davis on it. You know what I mean?
I thought about it. I was thinking about it.
Yeah, that's solid football answers though, man. You got my respect. Jim Otto, that's props.
I can't disrespect the 00. He is the Raiders.
Yeah, and there was no other 00s till they recently brought the zeros back. That was the guy. You know what I mean? The only guy in the Hall of Fame with those numbers. Yeah, and then before we go, I got to give your franchise flowers. Best jerseys in the history of Earth.
Love it.
The silver and black, iconic, man. It's we're actually going to rock white helmets against you guys.
Okay,
they just dropped that on us today, man. It's going to be a contrast in styles there going out. But Marcus, can't thank you enough for your time, man. You've been awesome, enlightening. Looking forward to this matchup, and I'm glad you're able to help us break it down. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at the Mark John NFL. I do a lot of draft stuff, so you're in the draft stuff. I check that out. So I just don't do Raiders things. So even my show Taped on Live. So I have a podcast, a podcast do film breakdowns and
nice
different shows as well. So we kind of got a little network going there. And for that we do all types of drafts. So we do mock drafts. We do almost over 100 players breakdowns. So we get in there and get gritty for the draft stuff. So, and we go to the Senior Bowl, do a lot of stuff like that. So, you can get this kind of the scoop here, especially, if the Raiders are picking right next to each other, Raiders or Browns, and, who's taking a quarterback. You can come in and see what we got, see what the Raiders are doing, and, check that out. So, yeah, those are, a lot of places you can find me. And, of course, I do some writing for Silver and Black Pride. And then I also do some stuff for at NFL Draft Fanatics on Sundays. So check that out to 10:30 Eastern time. Do a whole bunch of quarterback stuff and also covering wide receivers. So yeah, just working, man, all day.
Man, that's a busy man. You guys know the drill. Go out there, follow him, check him out, man. He covers more than just the Raiders. And if you guys want to learn about quarterbacks, and you very well should learn about quarterbacks if you're a Cleveland Browns fan. So go check my man out Saturday mornings over there. And guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving us your time. Do not forget, tomorrow, 10 a.m. on this channel, Jacob Roach, Bill Sparks, they're going to do their risers and fallers, who's exceeded expectations, who did not meet those expectations in college football this season. But the most important thing is Jacob is paying up on a bet and has to take a bite out of a raw onion. Okay.
Oh, wow.
That's the most important thing. You guys got to tune in for that. And here's the kicker. For every $1 donated in the super chat, he has to take an additional bite. Let's get rid of that onion.
Yeah.
I think that's the move. You know what I mean? So
make it a long day for him, guys.
From this, he predicted the Raiders to lose, and Jacob's eating an onion. Those are the two things I want you to take home with you tonight. So thank you very much for your time. You can follow us on all the social stuff up there. We appreciate your time. Go Browns.